So I just started a new game plus in Expedition 33 after 89 hours on my first playthrough. If it's not obvious already, there'll almost definitely be some spoilers. So if you haven't finished playing the game, maybe don't watch this video if you care about spoilers. So I just watched the Gamage scene again, watched Sophie Gamage away, and it actually hit me harder than it did the first time. Probably because I'm so much more attached to the world and the characters now. But I definitely teared up. And it just keeps hitting me just how much I have loved the experience of playing this game. And it's not that it's any one or two particular elements that they've done especially well. It's just the overall feeling that I have had while playing the game start to finish. They have maintained this feeling, and it's hard to put into words exactly what that feeling is, but I haven't felt this way while playing a game since I first played Final Fantasy X when I was, I think, 10 years old. So I really just want to talk about the experience of playing this game for the first time while it's still fresh in my mind. Kind of a review, but not in a super scripted review type way, just a more relaxed chat, because I feel like this is just going to have such a long-lasting impact on my brain. My expectations for video games going forward, like, this has been... So since I got Expedition 33, I have on average been playing it for 1 to 3 hours a night, almost every night. I have really been looking forward to winding down at the end of the day by turning on Expedition 33 and just getting into this world. And at the end of each night, I would put my PlayStation into sleep mode, I would put my controller down, and I would literally say out loud to myself, such a good game. Such a good game. And the last time that I remember feeling this particular way about a video game was when I played Final Fantasy X for the first time, because I was quite fresh to the universe, you know? I was quite new to life, 10 years old, and it was like, oh, here are all these emotions that I didn't realize existed. And Final Fantasy X has made me feel them. And now I'm like, what is happening? But it was great. And I just loved it. I was so obsessed. So Final Fantasy X was the game that got me properly hooked on video games. I'd casually played games beforehand, like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, and I'd enjoyed playing those games. They were a bit of fun. But this was my first experience playing a game where I got really hooked on the story, and I completely fell in love with this world that they'd built and these complex characters. So I think that since finishing 10, in a way I have been chasing that high, and I've been looking for a video game which would make me feel the same way that I did about Final Fantasy X. And there's definitely been moments in certain games where I've gotten that same feeling, but I think Expedition 33 is the first game that I have felt this way from start to finish. It managed to keep that same level of intrigue, love, momentum the whole way, and I think that is very impressive. Now, it hasn't overtaken Final Fantasy X for me. I think that would be a very difficult thing to do, but it is a bloody good game. The battle system is so engaging. The way that they have just completely reinvigorated turn-based combat, so impressed. And I love the Final Fantasy games, but that is one area that, as I've gotten older and I think my attention span has dropped, turn-based games have started to feel a bit slow. So when I'm playing the remastered Final Fantasy games and you can speed the battles up, I find that to be really useful because it just helps to cut out a bit of that, you know, it helps to keep the momentum high. In Expedition 33, the battles are fast-paced, they're always changing, you have to do different things with different enemies. You really suck sometimes when you first encounter a new boss and you think, I'm never gonna get the hang of this. But you fail and you fail and you fail, and then as you fail, you get a little bit better, and then suddenly you're really good. The first time that I fought a mime, I really struggled. But then after I got the hang of it, every other mime was a piece of cake. So even though it can be really frustrating to lose a battle several times in a row, it doesn't feel like it's in vain because every time you get a little bit better. And there's so much customization available to you, particularly later on in the game. And of course, there's some absolutely game-breaking builds, but you don't actually have to utilize them. You can customize things to how you want to play the game and how you want to handle combat, which I think is Really cool.
Yeah, my hair is.
All that pain just to put a smile on their faces. First though, aren't you getting too attached?
The characters are flawed and they're multi-layered and they feel really human. And the further you go into the game, you uncover more and more about them. Little hints that you hear about earlier in the game are revealed later on, and you're like, oh, right, because that thing. And they did such a great job of how they developed the characters throughout the gameplay, slowly showing you who the characters are. And there are multiple times throughout where some of their actions feel really questionable, but it also feels realistic. This is how someone would actually act, because sometimes people are selfish. Also, side note, I love that these characters were almost all around about my age, as opposed to playing as a bunch of teenagers or 21-year-olds. That was quite refreshing.
Interesting.
The world. Beautiful. The number of times that I found myself just stopping to take in my environment and just gaze around at everything. Like the level of detail, the landscapes that they've created, absolutely beautiful. And the music.
I'd really like for you all to survive this.
Again, just so good. Absolutely nailed the music. I work from home most of the time, like multiple days a week. So for weeks, while I'm working away at my boring corporate stuff, I've got the Expedition 33 music on in the background, and it is so invigorating and motivating. So good. And of course, the overall story. When I first started playing Expedition 33, I'd actually gotten about 20 hours into Baldur's Gate 3. My friends have been telling me to play it for ages. I've been promising them that yes, I'd eventually get around to it, and I'd finally started. But then I started seeing all these really great reviews for Expedition 33, and I saw a video from State of the Ark, and they were absolutely praising it, but saying you should really go into it blind, because the way that they just slowly reveal the story to you is just expertly done. So I was like, okay, somehow I've managed to avoid spoilers thus far. I know that the main campaign of Baldur's Gate 3 is like 100 hours long. I'm only 20 hours in. So I'm just going to put that on pause. I'm going to jump across to Expedition 33. The main story is only like 35 hours long. I'll smash that out and then I'll come back. And I couldn't stop. I did pretty much everything in this game. But I am really glad that I went in blind and I managed to avoid spoilers, because the amount of times throughout the game that they would reveal something and I'd be like, oh. Like, I did have the idea that the world that we were in was an entirely painted world, painted by the paintress. But my working theory was something along the lines of the paintress painted the whole world, and then when her daughter died, probably in a fire, she had a complete breakdown, the world split apart, which is when Lumiere ended up in the middle of the ocean, and then she painted her family in the canvas and made them immortal so that they could never die. And I was thinking that the reason why she had to kill people in Lumiere was possibly because she needed to use the life force of the Luminarians to keep her own family alive in the canvas. So I didn't quite nail it, but I was kind of on the right track. But there was still loads of things that just shocked me, like the end of Act 1. I really liked Gustav, and I did not see that coming. But it also felt realistic to do that, because it was getting to the point that I was like, why hasn't Renoir just killed them? Like, obviously I know that there's some sort of connection with him and Mael, which is why he doesn't want to kill Mael, but he killed pretty much all of the expedition on the beach. Why does he let these 3/4 just continue living when he could just be done with them? So when he did catch up with them and actually kill Gustav at the end of Act 1, it was brutal, it was rough, but it also felt realistic within the universe. The end of Act 2, like, when they did the reveal that the Paintress was counting down as a warning, and then that shockwave just came out and people started to gommage, like everyone started to gommage. Luna's probably my favorite character, and watching her gommage was rough. And then the actual endings, getting Verso's ending, and the little goodbye with Ciel, and then the look from Lune staring daggers at him, the betrayal, perfect. Like, they absolutely nailed that scene. I honestly didn't think that they were going to go there. I thought that even if Verso defeats Mael and she is forced out of the canvas into the real world again, Like, there'll be a way that they'll save the canvas. These beings in there are now sentient. They have lives. Like, they're not going to erase the entire canvas. But then everyone started gommaging again. And it was like, this game. And in that ending, when Mael, she was just saying to Verso, like, I just wanted this life with you, brother. I just wanted this life that was taken from us. And it's like, well, shit, this is rough. Like, I understand your motivations here. But then by the same token, Mael pretty much talked Verso into taking her to Elysia. They had their fight. And then Mael just erased Elysia without giving Verso a chance to say goodbye. And then when Verso was like, hey, that was a pretty shitty thing that you did. I would have liked to say goodbye to my sister, or at least, you know, talk to her about it. Mael was just like, well, sorry, Verso, but I was just giving her what she wanted. But then Verso's telling her, I don't want this life. I don't want this life. I don't want this life. And pleading with her, just let me die. I don't want this. And Mael's just like, well, no, because I can't accept the fact that you're dead and I can't live in the real world where you don't exist anymore. I can't face that reality, so I'm going to keep you here in this artificial canvas world. I'm going to keep you alive against your will because I cannot face my own grief. And it's so hypocritical of her, but it's also very human because you can relate to her. Because if you had that option open to you, that you got to live a life with a loved one who you'd lost, would you honestly be able to let it go easily? But also the way that they balance these dark, often existential themes with this lighthearted, silly sense of humor is really impressive. I immediately think of when Esquier puts the expedition band on his head and it's just like sitting there on his face. And some of my absolute favorite moments in the game were interactions between Minoko and Verso.
You deserve a new beginning. If you want one. Every one of us does. Now come over here and let's snuggle.
Little spoon.
So ridiculous, so out of the blue, but so funny. That whole random conversation that the two of them have about hairstyles, and you unlock the new hairstyle, which is, I think, the man bun. All of Minoko's lines about feet, like, tasty feet.
Why did she make Nevron feet so pointy? I can't polish them without poking myself. It's terribly inconvenient.
They've nailed this balance. I think it's really hard to do something that silly and actually pull it off, but they did. And in hindsight, it makes so much sense that Minoko was the representation of their family dog. Like, I did not pick that up until right near the end of the game. The gestural haircuts, the sacapatate outfits, the stereotypical French outfits, the baguette weapons, like, and just the French themes in general, actually. Like, it's really cool, the French influences that they have injected throughout the whole game, because obviously it was a French team. The inclusion of merde and putain throughout the whole thing. Super cool. And I feel like it gave it this really authentic flair. I was pleasantly surprised with the amount of stuff post-game / Act 3, particularly because this game was 70 Australian dollars full price. Every time I thought I must be about done, I would find a new area or a new boss or some new content. The gestural arenas, the endless tower, the endless night sanctuary, Renoir's drafts, all of the relationship side quests like Lune's family, Minoko's stuff, Crimson Forest, Yellow Harvest. Yellow Harvest I went to earlier in the game and I was like, oh, there's nothing here because I missed the grappling points, and I climbed up those and there was this whole area with like new bosses, a mime, new pictos. Like, every time that I thought that I was wrapping the game up for good, I'd find an area like that and I'd be like, and nearly 90 hours later, I've finally started New Game Plus. And the only trophies that I didn't do on my first playthrough were the mimes and the journals, because I got all of them except for the one in Old Lumiere, because I didn't get the old key from New Lumiere in the prologue. I talked to the chick that sells you the old key, but she sounded like a scammer to me, and I was like, I don't want to get ripped off, so I just kept my token. But on the plus side, it did mean that I had one spare token when I started my New Game Plus, so I was able to unlock the baguette weapon for Verso / Gustav. On the topic of New Game Plus, the prologue. So as I mentioned earlier, when I first started this game, the intention was to just blast through the story, and then go back to Baldur's Gate 3. So I sort of just breezed through the prologue without doing much of the side stuff on my first playthrough. And having just replayed the prologue, I really wish that I had taken my time to get to know the world a bit better on my first playthrough, because I just breezed straight past so much world building. Like, I missed so much. I love how they established the world in the prologue. So many interesting conversations with people with conflicting viewpoints, and how these people handle the harsh reality of their existence. The people who think, I cannot accept this as my fate and I need to do something about it and fight against it. So they develop the technologies, they go on the expeditions. And then there's the people who accept their fate and they just say, well, there's nothing I can do about it, so I'm just going to enjoy the time that I have left as a sort of fuck you to the paintress, because it's the one thing that I can control.
Fuck the Patriots!
The debate about whether to have children so there's still hope for the future of Lumiere, or to accept the fact that they're probably just going to die as teenagers with no parents, so why do you want to bring them into a world where that is their reality? Really difficult things to have to grapple with. And it's really interesting how they portrayed these different viewpoints in the prologue. Even that guy who worships the paintress, because there would be religion that would spring up around it, right? Yeah, I missed so much by not playing the prologue properly, because the whole time that I was playing the game, I was looking at the journals, and I think they start with like 85 or 86 or something. And I was thinking, is that the year that the countdown started, or is that the year that the expedition started? Or is it just that they didn't record journals for the first 15 years? But no, you have that quiz with that guy, and one of his questions, they tell us that it started at year 100, and the obelisk is, not the obelisk, what's the word? The monolith is essentially a reverse countdown calendar from the year that it started. Like, great. The answer was there the entire time, and here I am being like, oh, I wonder. But I didn't want to Google anything because I didn't want to spoil anything. I wondered why Lune could levitate when the others couldn't, and she was covered in these markings. And were the two connected? Yes, because she was painting pictores on herself. The answer is right there in the prologue with the dancing people. Genuine questions that I had throughout my first playthrough, and I just breezed straight past them in the prologue. All right, getting kind of worked up and warm. Criticisms. I really only have very light criticisms or areas for slight improvements. In my opinion, nothing is wrong with any core fundamental aspects of the game. There's nothing deep-rooted in there that would be impossible to fix. There's just a couple of little tweaks, which honestly I think they could do with future updates. Firstly, obviously it would be great if you could have some Lumina/Pictos presets. It seems a bit weird that they didn't include this in the actual game, but I do think it would be something quite easy to fix in an update. And on that note, it would also be good if there were more search options, because sometimes it would be great to just search for Lumina that affect break damage, or Lumina that affect burn, because they all have really specific names and it's quite hard to keep track of them all. Secondly, I wish that there was an option to pause at any point in like a trial or challenge, like the Endless Tower or a Gestural Beach, and just restart the challenge. It gets really annoying when you know that you mess up early on and you just want to restart the challenge, but you have to wait for each enemy to take their individual turn before it comes back to a controllable character, and then you can open the load menu and load a previous save. Similarly, when I was doing the Gestural Beach challenges, I kept getting this issue where I'd fail a challenge, so I want to do it again, and I was trying to rush my way through the menus, right? So let's say the raft challenge, for example. I was trying to beat the hardest level of the raft challenge. So the jester will be like, oh, you sucked, you failed the challenge. I'd talk to him again, and I was trying to quickly go through the menu and just go down, down, select the hardest challenge, and then start it. But if I press down, down too quickly, it would actually go down and then up again. So I'd be going down, down, X, and it goes down, up, selects the easiest one. It would have been great if there was just a pause menu where you could select restart challenge. Or even when you fail the challenge, if there was a menu that came up and said, do you want to try again? It makes more sense for the default to be try challenge again than exit out of the challenge and have to talk to them every time to retry it. Just when I was about to finish editing this, I see that Sandfall has released patch 1.4 in which they add a battle retry option. We're super excited to bring you the battle retry option in this update, which has been one of our most requested quality of life additions. So apparently a bunch of people wanted this feature, so it's good that they're adding it. It's not exactly what I was after in terms of you can't just pull up a menu at any point and retry the battle from the start. This is an option that comes up when you fail a battle, and then you have the option of trying again, which is definitely a welcome addition, but it would be nice to have the option to bring up a menu at any point during the battle and retry the battle from the start. And it would be great if, now that they've done this, they add the option in as well for gestural beach challenges. But we'll see. There are, of course, a bunch of other things in this update as well, including new Lumina cost display. The Picto menu now clearly displays the Lumina cost for each ability for better planning. This is definitely a welcome addition. It was kind of annoying trying to calculate your Lumina points and trying to save Lumina points by equipping certain Pictos. Now it's a lot clearer, which is good. And who knows, maybe there'll be further updates to the menus and they'll have better search functionality in the Lumina menu. We'll see. Thirdly, I was a bit salty that there were important things in the prologue that you could quite easily miss, and then there was no way to go back and do them. Because to be fair, there are a lot of people in that prologue area, and it's quite easy to miss things. But also, maybe it's a life lesson. Sometimes when you're not paying attention, you will miss opportunities, and there's no rewind button. So maybe the devs are just like, learn for next time. But I mean, even in that situation, your first playthrough, you probably get all 3 tokens at the Expedition Festival, or whatever it's called, and then you spend all 3 tokens, and then on your second playthrough, you can't get a baguette weapon because you don't have any leftover tokens. So it's sort of like, what are you rewarding here? And my final just little thing is that I found the jumping to be quite inaccurate, and there were certain parts in the game where you had to be quite accurate with landing your jumps, like in the Crimson Forest or that particular gestural beach trial. And sometimes it looked like you would actually hit it, but you'd fall off anyway. This is a problem in a few different games, but it was quite annoying because it's like, if you're going to put these things in where you have to be really exact with your landing, then make the jumping more accurate. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm really enjoying this overall experience of this game. This game is fantastic, but then this one little thing is like, just bugging me, because it's like, why is it like that? It doesn't ruin the overall experience, but it's like, if that could just be a little bit more accurate, that'd be great. So in conclusion, it's just a fantastic game. If you didn't pick that up so far from me just throwing praise at it this entire video, I have not stopped recommending it. There are so many people that I've had great interactions with because we've been like, are you playing Expedition 33? Oh my god, how good is this? How good is that? You haven't played it yet? You need to play it now. Like, do it. Especially if you're a fan of like the old Final Fantasy games, I think this game is just perfect for you. And also, nearly 90 hours for my first playthrough, I think this is incredible value for money. It's actually on sale right now, at least at the time of recording this video. It's 10% off, and considering full price is only 70 Australian dollars to begin with, I think it's already a really good value game. So thank you, Sandfall. Thank you for a beautiful experience, for taking the leap, for breaking away and doing your own thing. Your vision absolutely paid off. And it is great to see you getting the recognition that it doesn't seem like you expected, but you definitely deserve. At a time where it seems like AAA games take forever to come out and then the result is somewhat underwhelming, this is exactly what we needed to see. Alright, thanks for watching the video, and thank you for listening to me ramble on about just how much I bloody love this game. Feel free to subscribe to the channel by clicking on the face, and if you haven't already, go play Expedition 33.